Okay, well, as far as what we saw last season and what you played, I'll go ahead and start here. I stuck pretty much with the Bounce House deck that I've been using for a long time. I think the Werewolf by Night nerf, making him 4 cost, but 4 power, threw a wrench into things. I didn't get anywhere with it.
Just get Zabu in there.
But the thing is that I have all these other cards that kind of rely on using Werewolf's power.
Mm-hmm.
So, or turn 3 for me, Forge and Silk.
Mm-hmm.
That helps out a ton. But so, I just, the other cards work in such symphony with the rest of them. I don't really mess with that deck too much. So, kind of stuck around at 70 for quite a bit. And yeah, I wrote down here, how many decks did you face that had Forge in them? Was there a lot?
I'm not sure. I mean, it didn't seem very different to me. He's in a lot of decks, I think, but I wasn't going like, man, that's a lot of Forge.
I saw quite a bit. And I go back to what that one dev said, where he was like, oh no, we don't matchmake based off of what your deck is. And I'm like, and I swear if I change my deck up, all of a sudden I'm facing decks of a similar nature.
I've had the same thing. I mean, sometimes you can explain it with what cards came out, but not all the time.
Yeah.
So I expected to see a lot of Blob decks when Blob came out.
Right. I didn't get very much far above 70. I think 73, when I first broke into 70 and got to 73, was the highest I got. Mm. I just kept fluctuating between 68 and 71, somewhere in between there. I did put on here, I felt that there is a bit of a resurgent in high Evo decks. I seem to see those a little bit more, at least in my case. I don't know.
I don't know about you. Anything to do with Luke Cage getting nerfed? You
know what? Maybe so. What'd you see?
I actually saw a lot of Living Ironslaught decks. A few, I was like, oh crap, they're doing that thing I do. I don't like it.
Right.
So not that I came up with that idea. I copied that off of someone who slaughtered me with it once. But one that I hadn't tried, because the one thing you really need to get that deck working is magic. And I saw somebody using Wave, and I'm like, oh yeah, Wave could get around needing magic. So
exactly.
So I did put, I forget who I took out, but I did put Wave in that deck.
Okay.
To try to give an alternate
option
way to do it. And although I know once I ran into somebody playing it with Super Scroll, and I'm like, well, I'm getting all of it to work, and so are they, and they're doubling it up.
Yeah.
So I think that was a pretty easy retreat call.
Mm-hmm.
However many points I'm about to drop, they're gonna have twice as much. So.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that deck still works pretty well for me. And the Mr. Negative deck, had a good run with it. And Annihilus, I was still winning some games with that too. So those are probably my main 3. Although I always drop back in on Silver Surfer. I think there was one where one of the missions or bonuses was discard. So I broke out the most strong deck, especially with Black when I got Black Knight.
Very good. All right, well, let's talk about what we've unlocked over the past season. And yeah, I look at my unlocks and I sit there and think to myself, I must not have played a whole lot.
What have you been doing with your time, Jesse?
Yeah, no kidding. It's a holiday season.
Hanging out with your family over Christmas.
So I'm pretty certain at the start of December, I had 1 spotlight key.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By the end, I'm trying to figure out how this math even happens. But by today, January 1st, I have 5 spotlight keys. So I must have been right on the edge of one when we were talking last.
Yeah.
And then it got through. Somehow I'm up to 5 spotlight keys now. I'm going to have to double check that to make sure that that's the case. But current collector level 8,686, 8 variants that I have acquired over last season. So the 3099 Kazar, which do you know much? I don't know anything about obviously it's a play on 2099. We're going to go 1,000 more years into the future, right? Is that what's going on here?
I don't know if that was actually if it was a comic thing. I haven't heard of it. I just wonder if it's not just a theme they did specifically for the game.
Oh, kind of like a sidecar.
Oh, no, wait. Here, comic book resources. Whatever happened to Marvel's 3099 timeline?
Oh.
Okay, so it's a real thing.
Huh, when did it happen? It had to have happened in the mid-2000s or something?
In the year 3099, Jesse.
Thanks.
Right there in the title. Sorry.
Well, I should have known better.
Although source material is hard to find, games such as Marvel Snap and Future Fight include variant versions of characters sporting futuristic $30.99 skins.
Oh. So it was a storyline, though?
Well, let's see. While several Marvel comics have journeyed to the year 3099, none of them have really ever stuck as a firm example of the future in the same way as 2099.
Okay.
The first iteration might have been in X Factor number 67.
That's what, probably in the early 90s of X Factor? Or, well, as far as X Factor launched in what, the late 80s?
Yeah, so this was 1991. Jim Lee and Wilf Portacio on art.
Ooh, oh my. All right, well, there you go. 30.99 Kazar for you. I got a Jen Bartel Rescue. I got the Jim Lee Magneto, which was the Winterverse celebration. Dan Hipp Ronan the Accuser. Dan Hipp Spider-Ham, which you had that already, right?
No, I've seen it, but...
Yes, he is straight up eating a hot dog. I'm
sure on his world it's something different.
Yeah, it's something different, I'm sure. Ryan Benjamin, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. And I got a Baby Silk and a Noir Colleen Wing. I bought the Baby Silk with gold, and the Noir Colleen Wing, I think I unlocked that. So anyway, that's it, man. 8 variants is all I had. So how about you? You look like you did some work.
I got a few more. Yeah, I got a Pixel Strong Guy, Dan Hipp Yondu, which is not in the featured Dan Hipp album. A Chibi Darkhawk, which is not disturbing like some of the chibis. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, he's got a mask. He's able to pull that off a little bit better.
I did get tempted by the album and got a Dan Hipp Claw, only to see the next day the Dan Hipp Onslaught, which I would have rather had. But just because I have a cool Pixel Claw variant, but I bought into the hype. I got as a prize a Nicola Sismasija Yellow Jacket to keep up our monthly tradition of me not pronouncing his name correctly. Got Blob and Havoc on my first try on their Spotlight caches. Sabretooth with art by Gabriele Dell'Otto. A Dan Hipp Blue Marvel. And then in the same day, back-to-back unlocks of classic Agatha Harkness and Dan Hipp Agatha Harkness.
Wow. That classic's fun stuff. That's the one I use. I haven't seen the Dan Hipp Agatha.
Yeah, so my prizes that day was Agatha all along.
That Agatha is the classic Agatha there, too. That's pretty cool. Yeah. The Dan Hipp Agatha is classic. Go ahead.
Okay, the Winterverse prize Magneto Jim Lee variant.
Never going to complain about a Jim Lee Magneto.
Yeah. Olivier Coipel's Black Widow, which is probably my favorite Black Widow that I've gotten so far. I don't know, I was using the Pixel one a lot. I got, what is it, the Max Grecki one. Mm-hmm. These were ones I already had. I hadn't been too impressed with a lot of the Black Widow cards. Let's see. Oh, I was trying to get Celine. I got the Ink Pulp variant of Iron Lad from the Spotlight cache, which was cool because I was like, yeah, I could use an Iron Lad variant. But I don't know, they've got his mouthpiece the same color as his eyes, so it just looks like he hasn't brushed his teeth for several years. I want to like it, but then I look at it and I'm just like kind of, ugh. It's not bad art. It's just the coloring choice. And like I said, I don't think it's supposed to denote tooth decay because it matches the yellow energy signature all around him. But it just weirds me out.
It's not supposed to denote tooth decay.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to do one more Spotlight key, and I got Black Knight, but then people started using Celine on me, and I'm like, I'm going to try it one more time. I was saving up, and I got her. I was saving up my Spotlight keys, but I figure on average I can get about 1 key a week, so I should be able to have 4 ready to go by the end of next month, or this month. I got a David Nakayama Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Dan Hipp Nebula.
Nice.
And then I had to get the Superior.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I was like, no, I'll just wait. That one's been around a while. I'll probably get it as a prize. I fully expected to see the Sylvester Iron Man in the shop today because I got my 700 gold.
Yeah, Doc.
It'll probably be there tomorrow.
That Superior Doc Ock, though, I've had him for a little bit, and yeah, I like that card a lot.
Yeah, they haven't, inexplicably, other than the Noir variant, they haven't given us Doc Ock in a suit, which is objectively the best Dr. Octopus. So
exactly. Yeah.
Remind me of one of my favorite runs of comics, Superior Spider-Man. Okay, I'll go with that until you give me the was it McFarlane, Eric Larson, Doc Ock in the white suit.
Oh,
come on, people.
That's perfect.
What are we doing?
That's perfect. Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.